Stephen A., does last night's outcome prove this whole rush we've seen, everyone wants to hire an offensive guru, is that a mistake?
I think so. I think that you've got to look for the best coach, not necessarily the best offensive mind. Everybody can't be Sean McVay. That's number one. Number two, if you wanted to be one of the two, or Sean McVay or Bill Belichick, what direction do you think you should go in? Look at the credentials. It's not to say that Sean McVay won't prove himself. I like Sean McVay a great deal. I think he's a great young coach. But you know what? A legitimate argument can be made that he got outcoached last year in the playoffs against Atlanta, and that was clearly the case last night against the New England Patriots. And so you've got two devastating losses on your resume where somebody could point to coaching. Because I'm going to repeat, Wade Phillips and that defense showed up. Now, obviously, it wasn't in the last drive when Brady connected with, or well, actually, second to last drive, the first drive where he connected to Gronk with an 18-yarder and then ultimately a 29-yarder, hitting Edelman and Burkhead doing in between. But then you also got, when they wanted to hold on to the football, you had two 22-yard runs by Sony Michel and Burkhead. Well, what's the problem there? The defense been out there all night long. The offense couldn't do anything. And their success throughout this year was predicated on their offensive prowess and supposedly the genius of Sean McVay, which came up short. And so for me, particularly in this day and age where you have rules and regulations that definitely are favoring more offense, and the NFL has benefited from it tremendously because ratings are up, revenues up. You're looking at the things that are transpiring in the National Football League. It's been more attractive to watch because you're seeing more offense. Bill Belichick comes on the scene for Super Bowl 53 and reminds everyone what truly, truly wins championships. You have to be able to stop somebody. You have to be able to play Rough Rider style football and get the job done on the defensive side of it and get some kind of contribution offensively. That's what we saw the New England Patriots do yesterday. And I think that when you look at it, you look at a guy like Vic Fangio going to Denver, for example. You pay attention to those kind of things and you realize necessarily going in the direction of a Sean McVay may not be the way everybody should go. We can understand some teams doing it, but everybody don't need to do that.
If the question is really like, hey, should you just rush out and hire an offensive guru no matter what? Of course the answer is no. But if what we mean, the spirit of it is, look, would you rather have an offensive coordinator, guru, young hotshot type as your head coach? Do you think you'd be more likely to win that way? All things equal, would you say, let me go with the offensive guy? Yeah, I would. And the reason is, look, take the rating of the game last night. This is the lowest rated Super Bowl in 10 years. You know, all the talk and the hand-wringing about Kaepernick and concussions and the league is you know what solves all the problems? Offense. And all the leagues understand this. The NBA understands it. The NFL understands that. People like offense. And so that is the way the league has trended, and I would expect, even if they're a little, it's not a straight line up, it can go like this, but that's the way the league, I believe, is going to go. So is it possible you can get a defensive coordinator like Bill Belichick who develops a great relationship with his quarterback? No, of course, that could happen. But what's more likely? That a quarterback whisperer, an offensive guru, right, is going to develop a relationship with a quarterback. We all know the number one correlation to success in the NFL, especially long-term, is quarterback coach. So where are you most likely to find that? You want to get a young, innovative head coach, offensive coordinator type, pair him with a young quarterback, and then you ride that for 15 years, hopefully. To say nothing of the fact that your defense, and this goes for everyone, Baltimore Ravens, Seattle Seahawks, defenses, the greatest, most generational kind of defenses last, 3, 4, 5 years on the outside? Your quarterback's going to be there for 15. So if that's what we mean by it, like, what are you really looking for? That's what I'm looking for. I agree with it.
Many, many, many teams will have made a mistake going after a Sean McVay clone. You said, Max, all things being equal, if everything were equal, you want the offensive guy. Okay, we can submit that, but it's never equal. It's never all things equal. So the problem is what happens is people have elevated offensive or perceived offensive genius to the highest point on the pecking order. And what we've learned from Belichick and the Patriots consistently is leadership is what we want above the perception of offensive genius. You want adaptability, culture, discipline. I think of Belichick as the Warren Buffett of football in that he doesn't pay attention to trends. Well, he pays attention to them to the extent that he sees value on the opposite end of a trend. So when the league chases Sean McVay, What they're going to end up with, and I think this is what you're getting at as well, Stephen A., at some point, is Xeroxes of Xeroxes. You're going to get cheap copies. And I don't know who it will be. I don't know if it's Zach Taylor or Cliff Kingsbury, and I'm not indicting any of those guys individually. But at some point, you will have sacrificed so much leadership, so much culture, so much discipline, so much adaptability, proven traits that you're going to end up with some cheap version of Sean McVay. So if the league has gone down that path, and I, by the way, think they have, I don't know who it will be, I just know several will wash out, you have elevated offensive genius above what truly matters, leadership.
Well, look.
Well, I will say this. Hold on, Max. I will say this. I want to give Sean McVay credit where credit is due. He's in his second year as a head coach and got them to the Super Bowl. Obviously, he made Jared Goff into a quarterback in the National Football League, which is something Jeff Fisher couldn't do. But let's also remember to give props to Les Snead, your GM, who went out and got Ndamukong Suh, who re-signed Aaron Donald. Obviously, that's an obvious thing to do, but there was some trepidation as to whether or not that would occur, at least in time for him to have the kind of season that he ended up having. Then you also got Aqib Talib. You got Marcus Peters. So let's look at it from that perspective, C.J. Anderson as well. So we got to give credit where credit is due to the front office, the personnel. When people try to go out there and emulate these guys, they're not easy to emulate. They are special. But you got to recognize that there could be special guys in this league that may not necessarily be somebody fixated on their or position on the offensive side of the ball.